What's up, guys? Welcome to the Peer Review Podcast. My name is Caleb Davis.
My name is Brett, and we have some notes today. But first, let's get into some small talk. Caleb, I feel like it's been a while since our last episode. You know what I'm saying? How have you been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, no, we've been on a bit of a hiatus, but things have been pretty well. This past weekend, I got to go to the Michigan State versus Prairie View game. That was a really fun experience. It was a nice game. We got to see our team in a win a blowout game, and the one thing I will mention, it was really, really hot. So that was a little rough. We were in the student section, but we were towards we didn't have a lot of shade or covering, so that was a rough watch, just a little bit. But I was excited to be there. And then outside of that, I had a couple quizzes and exams this week, so I've been a little busy. And then I sat in on a panel, as a speaker, and essentially we as interns kind of lined up, and companies were allowed to ask us questions from our perspective on how they can improve. So that was pretty exciting. It was kind of a different touch or twist on panels you don't normally see. It's normally students. You're not normally at the face of the companies and having them take your input. So that was a pretty cool experience. But yeah, how about you? How's things been? Anything new?
Yeah, no, that's dope. I think it's really cool when companies actually value your feedback in person, and they don't just send you some survey at the end that you just fill out. I feel like it's definitely more impactful when you get to kind of talk about your experience in person. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, for me, I've just last week we had our homecoming event, and the band that I put together helped put together the Soul Collective. We performed there, and it was a great time. It was a great experience. Um, I never been I guess in charge of putting a band together before, so it was a new production experience for me, which is really cool. And then we also got a grant for the documentary I've been working on, which is really exciting news. So it's gonna help reimburse some of the equipment that we bought so far, and that's really picking up steam. But just trying to get ahead of my work. I have some cases due for class on Tuesday, so I'm trying to start that now. And yeah, just kind of prepare for the upcoming week. After being a month in, it feels kind of crazy because I feel like it hasn't really been that long yet, but it has at the same
Yeah,
time. But yeah,
I
what do you think?
understand, man. Things are starting to pick up. But yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get us started today. Today we're gonna be covering 4 games and 5 topics. We're gonna start off with the Tua Tagovailoa concussion injury, and then we're gonna move into the Lions versus Bucs, then Bears versus Texans, Michigan versus Arkansas State, and then we're gonna finish off with MSU versus Prairie View. So, like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna start with the Tua injury. So I kind of just want to give a brief history. Well, I'll start with the injury first. So he suffered a grade 2 concussion, I believe 2 weeks ago. He ran into Damar Hamlin, helmet, straight into his chest. It was a pretty brutal hit. But that was his first concussion of the season. But I kind of just want to lay out his concussion timeline and just so you understand the seriousness and the severity of the injuries, because they are starting to add up, and it is starting to come into question whether or not he should consider retirement. So he suffered his first NFL concussion in 2022 after he had a breakout year, and grade 1 concussion is the lowest on the scale, and it essentially is leading to a lack of follow up and the possibility of uh, neuropsychological dysfunction. So milder symptoms, like you're not knocked out or anything, but you definitely feel a little woozy. There's definitely a little bit of brain trauma. Moving forward, later that year in 2022, he suffered a grade 3 concussion, which was his worst concussion of the 3 that I've mentioned so far. And essentially, a victim just loses consciousness for 5 minutes or more following the trauma, and the symptoms of the concussion can last weeks or months before they begin to subside. And then, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, just a couple weeks ago, he had that grade 2 concussion. So I kind of want to hand it over to you, Brett. Where do you kind of see this impacting his career? Do you kind of what's your outlook on the situation?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that first and foremost, he should be able to feel the independence to make this decision on his own. I feel like there's a lot of talking heads in media that are kind of being oh, he needs to retire, he needs to retire. Well, yeah, you understand that, but also at the same time, for guys like that were star players coming out of college and high school and then coming into the NFL, in the first round, it's that's kind of all they know. And I think that a lot of those guys would much rather be playing the game they love than to, just like to quit when they feel like they still have more in them, which is understandable.
Yeah.
Conversely, I kind of am in the bucket if he needs to take his health a lot more seriously in the way that he plays, and I think that a lot of the hits are avoidable if he was more conservative with protecting his body and like his head specifically and like sliding earlier. I think he slides late a lot, and he also doesn't really protect himself from hits well, like when he's in the pocket, because he's a competitor. He wants to fight for extra yards, but also at the same time, it's like he has to kind of. I feel like you can't really think about like everything that like has happened to you in the moment while you're playing, obviously, or else you're gonna. I mean, QB is a mental sport; it's gonna impact you greatly, but um, he has to have that somewhere in the back of his mind to be like, I need to protect myself because at the rate that I'm going, like it's going to cause chronic issues down the line, probably like, symptoms of CTE, which can show up, months, years, decades down the line before it even like
Fully
becomes a
impacts
thing.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, before it fully impacts them. And you see really sad cases with people like, Aaron Hernandez, Antonio Brown, etc. And I would hate for him to end up in a situation like that to where he felt like he's no longer in control of his mind. Because at the end of the day, you only have one life, and I get like a lot of his life has been dedicated to football, but it's important for him to think about uh, at least ways to actively try to protect himself and take it seriously because it's at a point to where it's starting to get like really scary.
I pretty much echo everything you said. And I think it's hard coming from like just from I'm trying to put myself in his shoes as a competitor. Like everyone was on him like, "Oh, in that situation he should have, slid or maybe he shouldn't have tried to lead with contact because they already had the first down and he should know that." And like, yes, like after the fact you can point out all of that, but like you mentioned earlier, like in the game in the moment, and yes, he should have the understanding like I probably shouldn't be putting myself like taking this much of a risk. But he's also a competitor. He's live in action, and like I just think he wanted to go for the extra couple of yards, and I can't be mad at him for it. But yeah, like you said, you have to know to protect yourself and not put yourself, especially this early in the season, put yourself at risk.
Yeah, I can see
Especially
for the playoff game, like you
yeah,
gotta do what you gotta do to try to win, but
just with his
but
track record. But yeah, like you mentioned earlier, I think it should also be his decision whether or not he wants to retire or stay and keep playing until the wheels fall off. But yeah, it's a delicate situation, and it's tough to see because he was having a good start to the season. And you don't like to see guys get hurt, and it was just pretty unfortunate. But I think people were being a bit too hard on him. Um,
I
just
agree.
yes, in the moment, I don't think it's as easy. I don't think because I don't think if he knew he'd get a concussion from the hit that took place, I don't think he would have done it. Like it wasn't like he was purposely trying to put himself at risk. It just things happened and it was unfortunate. Um, but that's really all we kind of have on that front. Moving forward, I wanted to touch on the Lions versus the Bucs. This was a resulted in a loss for the Lions. The final score was 2016. The Bucs ended up taking the W. And I'll kind of get us started with this one. This game was pretty rough on the Lions front. There was a lot of penalties called, like especially early in the game, that I was kind of getting annoyed with. But I don't want to say the entirety of the blame, but Jared Goff was not good in this game. I thought his decision making was rough. Our offensive line was doing their job protecting him. Like he was having time in the pocket, but there's no reason he should have attempted 55 passes in this game. Not with the run game that we have. Like we have Jameer Gibbs, we have David Montgomery. I just don't think there should really ever be a game during the season where he needs to throw 55 passes. And if I'm not mistaken, did he have any touch? I don't even know if he. I don't think he did. All his picks were very very questionable, very very rough. And that pick in the fourth quarter especially had me scratching my head. Um, and we're a great crunch time team. So I was kind of when we got the ball back in the fourth, I was very optimistic. But that stats like those also kind of worry me a little bit because why are we always coming from behind and always in crunch time situations. Like I'd rather just win the game without all of like the
Yeah,
hysteria and drama. But I think our defense was really the story of this game. They gave our offense so many chances, chance after chance, and we just couldn't capitalize. It kind of felt like we were like stuck in the mud a bit. So we just weren't making things happen. I want to shout out Aiden Hutchinson. He had 4.5 stacks, and he couldn't be stopped no matter who they matched up with him. He was just amazing. And the biggest thing for me, because I think we should have won this game. I think that blunder going into halftime where they had 12 players on the field when we could have kicked the
yeah,
field
take
goal.
the field goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
causing that 10-second runoff. That kind of, I don't want to say it, like mistakes happen, but that
No, they
is
lost the game for sure because if they would have did that, they could have instead of trying to like the way they played at the end of the game, it was like they're playing conservative to kick a field goal instead of taking shots to the end zone when we needed to win by a touchdown. But if we had kicked the field goal before halftime, then we could have kicked the field goal there and won the game. So
Yep.
yeah, that was coaching error on Dan Campbell. He even came out and said that in his press conference. So yeah,
And Baker Mayfield he was just cooking us. Like there was nothing else I could say. He was using his legs, extending plays, breaking 2, 3, 4 like tackles in a play. Like it was a lot. It was a lot to watch. Yeah, I was at my buddy Herschel's place again. We usually get together on Sundays and watch the Lions game, and it's definitely a rough day for us. And also Chris Goodwin as well. He played really well. He had 7 receptions for 117 yards. So they just had a good night. And hopefully the Lions will take this game and sort of learn from it, like moving forward. And we won't lose close games like this as the season progresses. But yeah, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Brett. Kind of, what were your thoughts on the game?
yeah, I think really this game came down to our coaching staff losing the third chess match because in the first two games, Todd Bowles blitzed a lot. So Ben Johnson put together the game plan that he wanted to throw a lot of the quick passes to the flat to Jameer Gibbs and like to screens to, like Amon-Ra St. Brown, et cetera, et cetera. But they were ready for that the whole game. And they actually didn't blitz as much as they had previously did in our matchups with them last year in the regular season and in the playoffs. So they came with the counter plan to win when we then account for them ever like adjusting from what they had did last year. So for me, in my head, that's ineptitude in the coaching staff. They should have made better adjustments at halftime to counteract the game plan. And like you said, Jared Goff threw the ball way too much. That's not really how we win. Like there was no power football to be had for some reason. I think they assumed that they were going to sack the box, so we just didn't run the ball when they didn't. So
When
we
we
could have
did run the
easily
ball, it was effective.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know why we like got away from that. That kind of bewildered me. But yes, Jared Goff did play bad. But I will also say that the offensive line hasn't been as dominant for some reason as they've been in the past, especially like in the interior. As much as I love Frank Ragnow, our All Pro center, he's been struggling, like which is very odd for him. When you look at his PFF grade, he just hasn't been winning as many reps as he usually does. I think honestly, he has like that lingering toe injury thing, so that could be like bothering him more than like he's actually like saying on like the report or whatever. Because, um, yeah, he just didn't look up to par with how he usually is able to play. And Jared Goff is terrible against interior pressure. Like he can evade like some rushing a little bit, but like when the pocket collapses from the inside, like it's clipped. So that's something that they're definitely gonna have to work on if we want to continue to be effective like in the passing game. They have to be able to protect him from in the interior better. Um, and like the coaching mistakes. Could have kicked that field goal. JMO is great though.
Yeah.
Another highlight. JMO has continued to shine in the first two games of the season, so that's really exciting to see. And hopefully he continues that on that trajectory. Laporta has been like a no call no show for some reason. I don't know what's going on with that.
They only threw him the ball like 3 times though. Like I didn't really. They weren't even looking for him. I don't know
That-
what.
That's true, but also was he open? I don't know. I wish they would like show like the view sometimes where like you're behind the QB and you can kind of see
Mhm.
like what's
From
going
the
on.
TV, yeah.
Yeah, I wish they would do that a little bit more often because then I could like you can kind of see like oh like he's open like why didn't he get the ball or etc. But yeah, I don't know. It could have been a Goff, it could have been Laporta, could have been both, but the chemistry hasn't been there. And I think also this goes back to not playing any of the starters in the preseason because we're assuming like we're just going to be like good. I don't think that was a wise decision in my opinion. I feel like they all should have played at least for like a quarter, like every game, just to kind of shake off the rust a little bit because I feel like
Now they're trying to work it off in during the
exactly they're just
season.
trying to work it off in real game, and it's kind of it might cost us. And I don't know, Kyler Murray's like red hot. I sadly think we might start off 1-2, and that's not exactly the way that I was expecting us to start the season. So yeah, so it's just overall a little disappointing for me.
Definitely a rough loss. But moving forward, we had an exciting Bears versus Texans game. We got to see Caleb Williams go up against C.J. Stroud, and it ended up the final score being 19-13 and a Texans win. Um, I'm gonna kind of start us off. I'm gonna go based on the perspective of each of the QBs. Essentially, like I'll touch on the teams a bit, but that was a marquee matchup in this game. And I just want to start with Caleb Williams. I thought he had a lot of promising moments during this game. He's definitely an elusive quarterback with the ability to extend plays with his feet. We saw that on full display a few times during the game. Well, damn near the entire game because his offensive line was doing nothing to protect him. So he was running for his life out there. And he can make a lot of the spectacular throws. But as a rookie quarterback, he struggled a bit and he had a couple errors. He made a bunch of critical mistakes down the stretch in the fourth quarter. He had two picks.
Yeah,
But
when he was like rolling cross body to the right and threw that ball like into triple coverage, like that was
yeah,
crazy. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie.
I was just that first pick where he broke the tackle and was scrambling in the pocket. He threw it about 3 yards too short. And my whole thing with that, and that's it's gonna come with age and maturity. It was second down, so I just feel like during situations like that, he should be taking the more cautious approach. Like, just throw the ball away. You don't have to chuck it downfield like that to a guy that's triple covered because
Yeah,
that was a scoring opportunity, and you guys ended up losing the game by a touchdown. And picks like that are a direct correlation.
right. If it was like third and long and like you're about to punt anyway, I could see like taking a deep shot that I guess might get picked like that. That makes sense because it's like okay, it's basically like an arm punt.
Yeah,
But yeah, second down, that's crazy.
and just the degree of difficulty there, like it was just there was a lot going on, and I just don't think that was the right decision there. But yeah, and then the Bears' offensive line, like I mentioned this, but they were no help. Like they were like matadors, and the Texans D line were the Bulls, and they were just letting them in. Ole, ole, like he got sacked 7 times. Like protect your quarterback. Um, like that was my biggest thing. It was like frustrating to watch because you can't even see his full ability because he's too busy trying to literally running for his life. Like he was taking hit after hit, and over the season, that's gonna wear your quarterback down. And that's gonna make him more susceptible to injury. So look out for that a little bit. You definitely don't want your quarterback taking hit after hit like that. But the Bears defense looked very good, I will say. They looked very formidable. And that was something that I kind of noticed. And then onto the Texans POV. CJ Stroud, we already kind of know what he is. I was so impressed. I'm always so impressed with how calm and composed he is in the pocket. Like he stands right there, he reads the field, and he makes the right throw. He was making throws on the move, off his back foot, launching it downfield. And he looked pretty good in this game. Both teams kind of struggled running the ball. And then word on the street is that he's a top 5 QB in the NFL. I don't know if I'm ready to say that yet. But that's just what I've been seeing on Twitter. And then on defense, as far as defense, him and Nico Collins were yin and yang out there. And then did you see how I'm gonna butcher it, Al Shair, like how he threw that punch? Did you see that? Like there was like a
Oh yeah on the sideline. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And he like
I was like, what the? And nothing happened. I thought it was pretty funny to me. I'm like, what is
yeah.
going on? They
There's
just went
always,
right back to.
there's always a good helmet punch, in a rivalry game. So
I think he got fined like $11,000 or something, like nothing to it. But I just was like that was fun. Made me chuckle a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna kind of throw it to you. Go ahead, touch on the games a bit.
yeah, I think I was impressed with um the excuse me, Caleb Williams rushing attack. He only scrambled really technically like 5 times, but he had a good average on those, and every single he made good decision making on when he should be looking to run and scramble out of the pocket. But and those instances, like he was trying to keep his eyes downfield to see if anybody was open. So I think that's like that's good intangibles and good practices to display, even though the team wasn't performing great. I think, like you said, he has a lot of potential in the way that he plays, and the way that he's always looking to make the next play. Also, like Roma Dunze, man, like I don't know what's going on with him, but he isn't. He also like isn't very good. I didn't watch the entire game, but I remember watching him like drop like the easiest touchdown pass, bro. Like, and I was just like, what's going on, man? Like, you gotta reel that in. But hopefully, that's stuff that gets like worked out throughout the getting more reps throughout the season. Because I think he has some potential, and I think that Caleb Williams has the weapons to succeed theoretically, like on paper. But whether or not they actually are able to mesh together and get the chemistry going, that is another thing. And also, I think it just helps that the Texans are just completely stacked at wide receiver. With
Yeah, he has what?
on Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, like your wide receiver three is Tank Dell. Like I feel like you're doing pretty good for yourself. And Cam Akers is still good. It's good to see him. Good to see him doing his thing out there. Because he used to be pretty good at the Rams and he got hurt. So yeah, like you said, it was impressive to see the Bears defense though hold like such like a stacked offense to only 19 points. So I think the Bears are definitely going to win a couple of games this year just because their defense is so good. Um, if Caleb Williams can limit the turnovers and just like you said, be a little more conservative and just look to pick up the next first down and get the yardage needed to move the sticks, I think they can have some success. Um,
But I think that's definitely stuff he'll improve on
for
over
sure.
the season because, like I said, he's a rookie. I think people like offer criticism way too fast. Like no one lets things kind of develop. Like give him time. Like people are already trying to throw out like his player comps and stuff like that. I'm just like give him time. Give him time. Like give him a season. Let's see how he grows and adjusts because you never know, he could end up like how CJ Stroud did and have a great second half of the season and kind of take over. You don't know. So I tend to take the more cautious approach when trying to evaluate, especially young players.
Spell it.
But for our next topic, we had the Michigan versus Arkansas State game. The final score for this game was 28-18, and it ended with a Michigan W. I'm gonna kind of turn it over to you because I know were you at the game?
Oh no, I was at the I watched it though.
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna kind of let you kind of start us off. How you think Michigan fared and some things you noticed.
Yeah, honestly, like the I think the big overarching theme is like we just lost our intensity, man. Like I don't see the Michigan and Smash Mouth football culture that I saw last year with Harbaugh. Like it's like that kind of like left with him, which is like very sad. But like I think yeah, like there's a lack of attention to detail. There's no creativity for the offensive play calling, especially in the passing game because we had I keep forgetting his name, bro. I don't even know his name. But our new offensive coordinator was our QB coach last year. And I just, yeah, the route trees are uninteresting, not creative. I think he's using Donovan Edwards the wrong way still, which is also very annoying. He's not a gap, running back. He never was. He never had the greatest vision. Sadly, that's just not one of his skill sets. But they haven't even tried any like outside sweeps or pitches with him for real, or like getting him in space. They don't let him line up in slot receiver anymore. They used to do that a lot in like 2021. We had Josh Gaddis. Um, should we even have like a fake play where like he can throw, bro? Like we did like a screen pass and it was like a double pass and he like launched it downfield at Roman Wilson like 50 yards.
I think I remember
Bro,
that.
not gonna lie, like he dang near he dang near might be the most accurate thrower of the football on the roster. I don't know, but coaches to be stubborn. They probably won't give him a chance. We'll see. Because honestly, if we ran a wildcat with him every play with the option for him to throw it, like I don't know, might have a little bit more effectiveness on offense there. But really, my takeaway from this game is that like we don't really have a true number one answer at QB because I think that by now, if Alice Orji was this Cam Newton-esque savior of Michigan football that everybody seems to think that he is, I'm pretty sure that he would have already been playing. Like, yes, he's getting the nod to start Saturday, but because they were this reluctant, I'm honestly like pretty frightened, sadly, to like see what exactly the product will look like when he's
I
on the
feel like
field.
I feel like in his small amount of playing time, he's been pretty productive. Like if you look at what he's been getting accomplished in the short window, so give him some slack, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. I'll give him a fair shot, man. But it's just like it's like they're like scared to like open up the playbook for him. Like the only throws I've ever seen from him are like 5 yard dump offs, like when he's like rolling to the right. Like I haven't really he tried that one like deep pass to Moore and it almost connected, so that was pretty good. But I'd love to see if he can throw over the middle of the field accuracy. What his touch is like, can he get it over the linebacker and before the safety? Stuff like that. Like is he going to be able to fit it in when teams are playing zone coverage against us and um just being able to like not turn the ball over, honestly, because we're not going to win with throwing 3 interceptions a game. We have to we have to take care of the football. That's really what Michigan football is about: control of time possession, run the clock out, run the ball, get first downs, and mathematically, like that allows you to win the game most of the time. So I think that's kind of what we have to get back to, and I think hopefully Alex Orji gives us a chance to do that. I was joking with my friends. I was like, honestly, bro, like at this point, if whatever we trying to do, like this doesn't work, still, I think we should just run the triple option with Orgy, Edwards, and Mullings like a service school. Like every snap, Alex Orgy takes it. He can either run with it or he can hand it off to Mullings or Edwards, and like just do that every single play. And then honestly, I think like theoretically speaking, like if they can get 3 yards doing that every play, that's great. That's great football right there. If they can consistently do that. But with that being said, the offensive line has to play better because no matter who's in there, if they're getting like destroyed like every like 1.2 seconds behind the line of scrimmage, like it's really not going to matter, especially with like a younger, inexperienced QB that hasn't got that many starts. So I don't think Davis Warren deserves all of the blame. Yes, he has not been playing his best football, but the offensive line's also been really bad. The offensive play calling is really bad. I don't think this is like a Davis Warren issue. This is like our team is just not good, and I don't know what exactly they want to like try to tackle first to try to like get some of that moxie back from last year. But again, I think it starts with the culture at the top. And Sharon Moore has to kind of instill that fight because the most disappointing thing about this game, honestly, in the end, was the fact that we let them score 15 garbage time points in the fourth quarter. They had only scored 3 points for the entire game. It was like 28-3 or whatever. And they scored 15 garbage points like unanswered because we tried to bring in the backups to get them the depth pieces to get them some playing time, and they just weren't hungry. They looked lost. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing, and they were miscommunicating with each other. It was like people were just like being left like wide open. So yeah, that falls into the coaching staff. Like people just looked woefully unprepared and like they had never played Division I football before. So it was disappointing to me. I don't know. He just needs to communicate better with his coaching staff and make sure everybody's on the same page at the end of the day.
So I know Davis Warren threw 3 picks. I kind of want to give him a little slack on the first one, because the offensive line gave him no time at all. Like he was rushed like immediately. So I, I'm gonna give him slack on that one, the first pick. But the second and third picks were just bad decisions. And Arkansas couldn't capitalize because they didn't even like. I'm trying to think. I don't even think they scored their first touch. It was like the final like few seconds. Like I don't know. They didn't start getting going until the end
Yeah,
of the
it's like the
fourth.
last like couple minutes of the fourth quarter when the
Yeah,
batters. Yeah.
and like they tried definitely, but it should have been closer. I think. Like I think they kind of let you guys off the hook a little bit. And then I just want to say, Kaleb Mullins, he's just been a beast this year. Every single game, he's been showing up, showing off. But I do think your guys' offense looked better in this game than they have in past games, like earlier in the season so far. Not huge improvements, but definitely they looked a little bit more coherent.
I don't. I think
Like
it's because like they're just worse. Sadly, like Arkansas State is barely a FBS team, so it's like the level of comp I think just decreased because Fresno State was actually decent. Like they won the Mountain West. Texas obviously national championship contenders. Arkansas State though is significantly worse than both those teams. I don't really know if that. I think that was really more of just like sadly
just
their ineptitude than like our
mhm.
strength. Sadly, but that's in my opinion though.
And then as far as your defense, they didn't look the best out there, but they did their job. They were serviceable. They got stops. They forced a field goal early in the second quarter, and This game was all about offense, though, I feel like, which is kind of tough to say because of what we saw. But next week, you guys play USC, so that game will definitely be a toss up. So we'll see how you guys fare and continue to improve moving forward.
Watch this today, bro. Wait.
Yeah, I'm way behind. It is.
Okay, that was a
Yep,
big
it's
sure.
yesterday. I'm ahead of myself. But then lastly, for our last game of the day, we're gonna cover Michigan State versus Prairie View. This game was a complete shutout. It ended with the final score was 40-0, and it ended with the Michigan State W. Um, as far as some of the highlights, MSU looked great running the ball, and we dominated against slower opponents, which is to be expected and will hope to be expected when you're playing someone. So I don't want to say inferior, but basically
Yeah, I
inferior.
mean they're FCS level. They're from the smaller SWAC conference. I mean that usually that's how it goes.
Yeah. But we scored on our first two drives in the first quarter. Aiden didn't throw any picks, and he was moving his feet. He was throwing the deep ball. He was throwing off the move, and our offensive line was giving him time. And I think that was a big improvement. And then his decision making and accuracy both seem to be improving as the season progresses. He had an almost pick. That got called back. I think the guy was out of bounds. Um, but he just kind of seemed like he was cleaning up on a lot of those mistakes we've been seeing. And like we mentioned, like yes, we were playing lesser competition. In our next 2 weeks, we'll definitely say a lot about this team. But yeah, I was a little surprised that we left some of our starters out there in the second half because we were already blowing them out, and I guess they were just trying to get them reps, but. Kind of a risky move. A risky move when we're up like that. I just say rest them, bench them. Get the win and go home. Like we don't need to.
You don't want to end up like Michigan though. You bring in the backups, they score like 15 points out of nowhere.
Yeah, true, true. It just I don't know that the game felt like dead to rights before halftime. So I just yeah, but we took care of business. There's not a whole lot to make of this game because we were massive favorites, but I'm looking forward to see how we play against Boston College next week. And then Ohio State the week after. Well, not next week. Today. Sorry, excuse me. And then Ohio State next week. We're massive underdogs in both games. So it'll be interesting to see how we fare. And then I just want to shout out Charles Brantley because he had that pick six. It was a cool moment. And then our defense. I just want to shout out them a little bit. They only allowed Prairie View to 17 rushing yards, so like their run game was just non-existent. But yeah, we did a great job all in all.
Nice, man. Yeah, I didn't get that much chance to check it out, but I saw the box score and I was like, nice. Look at them over there taking care of business. So you know that's what's up, man. Did you have anything else you wanted to add or?
Nope, that's kind of all I had on that front. I'm just excited to see how our teams fare tonight.
Woo, big game day.
Yeah.
All right, for sure. Thank you all so much for tuning into the Peer Review podcast today. We appreciate it.
Please make sure to share the podcast with your friends and family, as well as following us on X at peerreview_pod and TikTok at Peer Review Podcast to stay up to date with our latest episodes and releases. And we apologize for the informality, I guess, a bit and the regularity for which we've been posting. We're trying to get set on a schedule and get things kind of rolling moving forward. But yeah, it's been a little tough getting acclimated to all of our school and obligations. So, but we're gonna be better. But yeah.
Yeah. Well said, Caleb. We also personally monitor all of our accounts, and we would love to hear feedback if you have any for us. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree? Do you want us to cover any different topics that you have suggestions for? Please let us know in the comments. And thank you again. We appreciate y'all. This is the Peer Review signing off.